gonna be really hard for this movie to be dethroned in terms of the best horror movies of the year. Like, I'm really excited for Backrooms, but I think this movie will hold the best horror movie of the year title for me for a really long time. Yeah, the real authority is here to tell you it's no Obsession. Backrooms is still a good movie, though. I'm quite sad, though, because Obsession was really strong that I kind of dimmed my expectations a little bit for Backrooms. Not to say I wasn't excited, because I still was excited. Like, this is really the only movie this week I'm majorly excited for. I have no attachment to Backrooms or Kane Parsons, but it's really cool to see a YouTuber whose idea basically connected with so many people online enough so that he was able to get a movie made. At 20, no less. And also, it's A24 doing a horror movie, and the trailer really did look shockingly solid. But yeah, I kind of knew it wasn't going to be an Obsession, but it's still something that I think would work for a lot of people. Let me get into it. So this furniture store owner finds on the bottom floor a hidden door to this weird place. A place filled with empty space and furniture that somewhat seeps into the floor. But it's a horror movie, so you know there's something going on with this place, and it's just overall disorienting. So it follows him as well as his counselor, who decides to go down this rabbit hole of rabbit holes. I guess starting off with the production design, because really, technically, this movie's pretty awesome. Danny Vermette really just structures a location in which you can't help but feel anxious or disoriented, claustrophobic. The last thing I kind of was expecting from the trailer, but disorienting. Like, this movie as a whole is very disorienting, helped by the fact that the production design is so odd and eerie and just overall incredible. Again, I haven't seen the Backrooms YouTube videos, but the production design was stellar nonetheless, especially on a $10 million budget. What they were able to build and construct here just inspires awe. And I guess focusing on the disorientation for a second, because this movie is kind of the most disorienting horror movie I think I've ever seen, mostly for better, sometimes for worse. But the score and sound design just go well together in terms of ramping up the anxiety and suspense. Like, it's not like Obsession where it's kind of aware of when to match the situation. Really, the anxiety and eeriness is there the entire time, and you know, it makes sense. So Edvo Van Bremen and Kane Parsons' score really just does a solid job at ramping up the suspense, plus also just being unique in its own way. Kind of like Smile, Smile 2, I think Black Phone 2 as well, in which the score just tries something so different, yet it's translated so well into the horror project that it's trying to be. Eugenio Battaglia's sound design also has a lot to do of why this movie just felt so disorienting, but appropriately so. And not to knock down the rest of the movie, but I feel like all three of these elements are kind of the stars of the show, which I really wasn't expecting. Okay, I kind of was expecting production design to be suspenseful, but I really do feel on a technical level, this is a disorienting masterpiece. But taking a break from the technical aspects and moving on to like the acting, really good around the board, although it really only focuses on two characters, while the other characters are kind of, I don't want to say cannon fodder, but they're really more or less background characters. But you got two incredible actors heading the charge. Renee Rensvay, I might as well start off with. She's not like the main character, at least for the most part, but she plays the counselor of the situation, which she kind of discovers this situation much later on in the movie. I think the trailer kind of structured it to be that way too, so I don't think it's a spoiler. But I felt she did good as this counselor with a bit of a dark history, but more or less is able to try to help people. And is also pretty famous, although really it's more or less the drama and dread that the Backrooms presents that really allow Rensvay to shine and her character to be explored. Main character Chiwetel Ejiofor, I felt like he was spectacular. Granted, he is a really remarkable actor, so you kind of know you're going to get some great stuff from him, and here it really does work. I'm not going to say in what ways, because I feel like that might border into spoilers. But the more the movie goes along, the more you just can't help but appreciate the acting as well as the character development going on with his character. Again, Ejiofor is incredible in anything he's in, and here is no different. He is memorable. With Kane Parsons directing, since this is like his first major feature, I really do feel the directing was just so ambitious, with no flaws to speak of, really. Like, in terms of the technical aspect of it, it's really headed on by how imaginative Parsons' directing is. Again, this is my introduction to him, so I have not seen the videos he produced beforehand, but this was a solid translation into movie form, what the show was. Although I've heard it's quite different from the videos, and many people in early reactions said the videos were actually better. Regardless, in terms of a movie, this was really a strong directorial debut, plus it's from a YouTuber. Remember when YouTuber movies used to be laughed at? Now we got a lot, especially in the horror genre, and one especially where I'm like, is Project Hail Mary really the best movie in comparison to Obsession? That's actually a genuine question I've been asking myself, especially recently, because I really do love Project Hail Mary. So stay tuned for the best movies of 2026 to see which it actually is. I don't know yet. Back on topic, I felt Parsons' directing was great. Jeremy Cox's cinematography was suspenseful, and in an hour and 45 minutes, it's mostly solid. Which leads me to my mixed elements. I really only have a few. There are some pacing issues, but I mainly attribute that to the ambitiousness of the script. The directing's great, but it wasn't Parsons who wrote the script. Will Sulik actually holds that responsibility, and I felt it was mostly solid. But I really do feel that in terms of the overall package, there are a lot of inconsistencies that don't really become noticed until after the movie and you kind of unpack it. I'm continuing to unpack it, and I'm like, at first, I really understood what they were doing, and I really did enjoy the numerous insane directions this movie takes. In terms of the disorientation, the more you think about it, the more you're like, that kind of doesn't make sense or kind of came out of nowhere. There are a few decisions which come out of nowhere, and in fact, the first half kind of presents this structure to it that kind of disappears in the second half. It's a minimal thing. In fact, all of these issues that come into my head on the surface are kind of little things, but may make the experience more disorienting, leading to it being more uncomfortable than actually enjoyable. Now, I'm not saying it sacrificed it for me, but I kind of have the inkling that not everybody's going to vibe with this movie, which is not a big deal, but when this movie is as hyped up as it is, it kind of is a problem for people who kind of have high expectations for it. Again, Obsession kind of tampered those expectations down. But I will say, if you're expecting like a 10 out of 10 masterpiece, it really depends on perspective and preference. If you're a casual horror movie fan, yeah, you're gonna have a hard time enjoying this movie as much as you want to. Well, those who are accustomed to the genre, like me, and those who are familiar with Parsons and Backrooms, which I'm not, they'll definitely get the most enjoyment out of this. Regardless, it's hard not to respect and admire what Parsons did and what the entire cast and crew did, especially on a $10 million budget, but also for a debut from Parsons himself. So if you're a horror movie fan or familiar with Backrooms, you're definitely going to have a good time with it. I'd argue if you're a casual horror movie fan, it's still worth giving a chance, although you may not enjoy it as much as everybody else. And I do feel awful that the more I think about it, the worse it gets. Nonetheless, it's not enough to ruin the experience, so the real authority approves. If I didn't notice these issues, though, it would be a 10, but that's just a testament to how structurally good this movie is. Not for everybody, but I'd recommend it. And Obsession is still the best horror movie of the year. So what? We're still getting good YouTuber horror movies. That's not a bad thing. And neither is Backrooms. Make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel to post notifications, and comment your thoughts on the movie, and let me know what you thought about the video series. Like, is it worth watching, especially after seeing this movie? Is it weaker or better than the movie? I'd be interested to know. Let me know. Alright, peace.